Awful, awful situation. All right, Diane, thanks very much. Diane Gallagher reporting for us. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois. He's a key member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So this is the third time this year alone a U.S. Navy warship has collided with another vessel in Asia, in the Pacific over there. Is this simply a coincidence? What is the problem here?
It's hard to imagine that it's just a coincidence. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I was on the USS Pittsburgh, one of our fine submarines, and you couldn't help but be impressed by the crew and the operations and the great job that they're doing. But the fact that this has happened so often just this year raises the questions. I think the Navy's doing the right thing, suspending operations briefly and reviewing everything from the top down. I suspect come September, when we get back in Congress, there'll be congressional reviews as well.
If it's not a coincidence, what do you fear? It could be. I'm looking at the list. The USS John McCain, most recently, the USS Fitzgerald, off the coast of Japan, 7 U.S. sailors dead. The USS Lake Champlain, struck by a small fishing boat off Korean Peninsula. The USS Antietam ran aground trying to anchor in Tokyo Bay. If these aren't just a coincidence, what could it be?
Yeah, look, I think you don't rule anything out, including the mischief that was referenced, but I think it's more likely that it's just the basics. You know, what are we doing with training, our technology? You know, how are we moving these ships around in a modern war fleet in busy lanes? So I think you leave no stone unturned, and you look to take care of those sailors that we have lost and their families in the meantime.
Yeah, they clearly have to do a major investigation, but when you use the word mischief, what do you mean by that?
Well, the reference is made earlier in the report that they're worried about some sort of outside influence doing this. I doubt that. I don't think it's possible, but again, given the magnitude of this and what's at stake, you don't rule anything out. You let the experts do their job.
How do these incidents impact America's security over there, not far from the Korean Peninsula, in light of the threat from North Korea and the massive U.S., Korean, South Korean war games exercises that are about to begin? We know the North Korean regime hates those.
Yeah, I was there in 2015 during these maneuvers and these operations, and as you recall, that was the time when the mines blew up on the DMZ and the tensions were high as they've been recently. We have to be on our A game. There can be no misunderstandings of what our intentions are. And again, we have to be impressive. We have to show the world that we're the best out there, and I think we are. But we can't have any more mistakes.
We're awaiting President Trump's announcement tonight on Afghanistan. He's delivering a major address to the American public, 9 p.m. Eastern. As you know, back in 2012, when he was still very much a private citizen, he said rebuilding Afghanistan is, quote, not in our national interest. He also called it, quote, a complete waste. What do you expect to hear from him tonight?
You know, if you believe the reports, we're talking about an escalation here. It's going to be a tough sell for some of the reasons that candidate Trump talked about. This is a war now 4 times longer than the Civil War, or for us, the Second World War. 16 years with trillions spent, thousands of lives lost. It's hard to imagine a new strategy that's going to turn this around. I'm also hoping the president will reference the recent Russian involvement with the Taliban and their attempts to undermine the government of Afghanistan. What will our NATO allies do in this effort? And finally, Congress needs to take a role. We've abdicated our responsibility in all these conflicts and potential conflicts for too long. This is an authorization of use of military force that's, what, 16 years old now. Congress can't just talk about it. It has to actually vote and advise the president accordingly. Yeah,
I'm looking at some of his tweets from 2012. It's time to get out of Afghanistan. We are building roads and schools for people that hate us. It's not in our national interest. He's got another one. Afghanistan is a total disaster. We don't know what we're doing. They are, in addition to everything else, robbing us blind. Here's the question. You think another few thousand, the U.S. has about 8,400 troops in Afghanistan right now. You think another few thousand is really going to make much of a difference?
It's hard to imagine that it will. I'll be just to listen to the president tonight and to get briefed when we get back in Washington, D.C. I do know that more troops means the more potential for some of them being injured or killed, and creating an ever-widening, again, conflict there and U.S. involvement. I think that's what Americans and members of Congress are most concerned about.
16 years already, America's longest war. Congressman, there's more we need to discuss. I got to take a quick break. We'll resume our